And I want to show you, in honor of BB10, my top 10 features in FireWorks that make this such a powerful prototyping tool for selling your ideas, testing your designs, and working through your mock-ups. So also, when I get into the throw of this, I tend to be looking at the screen, and I'm very informal and don't mind questions along the way so that we can catch them right there. Try to leave some time at the end, but sometimes when you're looking at new features, something occurs to you right in the moment. And certainly if you didn't understand something, please just slow me down and we'll cover that. So here's the background on what I want to make. This is actually a real-world project. I'm part of a group here. Anybody wearing a little BlackBerry pin like this is part of the elites group. I know, the name is kind of funny. We don't get to sit first class on the plane or anything like that. But we're sort of a group of influencers or developers within the wider community here. And the way we communicate with each other is through a Facebook page that's private. And it's not the greatest. There have been certain messages up there, would you please share your pin on Facebook? And I didn't want my pin to go to the wider community. And it's a little bit of a bumpy experience. It doesn't go with the BlackBerry flow because you're looking for a Facebook client. So I wanted to build in the functionality of being able to communicate, being able to look at events like this and find out where we can meet up and who's got free time in their schedule. Being able to set up your own account details from your phone so that it was all mobile. You didn't need a desktop. You could just upload your data or change it on the fly at any time. Maybe you get a new phone at JAM and you get a new SIM and a new phone number and you want to update your details so everybody has them. So that's something I want to learn, how to get dynamic data uploaded and downloaded from the web, cached, and I'll be in that session later today learning that for this app. What's the last section here that I've got? Let me just remind myself of the pages here. I've got 4 sections for us to work on today. The Me section, the events, the Facebook, and the elites. So those are the 4 sections. And right here, I need to take that away so you can see them change. There's the elites page. There's the Facebook page I have so far. There's the events page, nothing, and the Me page where you're going to upload your details. Now, what I thought we'd do is actually start from scratch. This is a mock-up that I'm working on based on a drawing I did earlier. And of course, I recommend that as your first step, but that's not what this session is about today. This session is not about the entire design process, where you'd first start with a sketch or a whiteboard session to get the team on board, what it is that we want to create, and everybody involved in the room, developers, design, test, if that's a separate group, account management. And you'd have a good sketch or whiteboard session and make sure that you know where you're going before you sit down to FireWorks. You can do this also in PowerPoint or Keynote and just make an organizational chart and say, this is our top level nav, and this is where you can go from here, much like a website. I've not done that today. I've kind of dived in, and I'm eating my own words because I'm bumping into things, but the goal of this is also not to finish this mock-up today. It's to show you how I use the features and how you can actually get this on a device. So I've got limited screen real estate here, and I think what we're going to do is make a new document and just start from scratch and go through some of the features here logically and in order. So in FireWorks, we're going to hit New, and we're going to make a new document that is the width of our device. Now, I've chosen the Z10, which is 768 by 1280. I can easily in FireWorks, though, and this is really the beauty of it, I can easily make a new page, and that page can have dimensions that are different to the first one. So if I want to prototype for the Q10 at the same time, I'll do 720 again by 720. And now I have 2 footprints in the same document. And you can save all of your image, your assets, your app icon, and everything in the same file if you want to. at the moment, because this is a little bit confusing here, let me label this Q10. And we'll come back to that later. Right now, I'd like to make the first page, as I said before. Imagine we have this imaginary structure, and the first page, the main one that's going to come up is this directory of elites, because that's where the main interest is. Who's in the contact list? And now, what I'd like to show you is the document library and the common library. In the common library, what I'm doing is building a set of objects that you can use for your own projects. And this is not complete yet. We just had the launch last week, remember? And we just got a new style guide out yesterday. So what I want to do is fire up my Z10 now, and I'll be copying in great detail the elements in there, piecing them out, and creating symbols, making symbols out of them. And I'll show you how to make your own symbols right now. First, let's take a look at the symbols we've got in here. We've got some different things that we can just drag onto the canvas like this, and they're the right style and size and shape for our project. So if you were trying to add a browser window to this project, you'd just grab these pieces and pop them into place like this, and then you could edit them or break them apart with your own details. So I want to show you that now and do something more meaningful for this project. This project is going to need an action bar. So let's drag one of those out, just like that. Now it happens to already have context built into it, and I'm happy with that. Don't know if I want the add contacts button right there, but I'll leave it for right now and come back in a moment. Now I've got a little skinny title bar, and I will drag that one out. That came from the browser originally. And it looks like it came from my own website, because it says, life is short, eat dessert first. So right now we've got the start of a page. I personally like to label the tops of pages. I know that flow is all about being immersed in the information and letting that be king on the screen. But I think it's nice to have a little label at the top, telling the user where they are, reminding them of where they are in the flow. This could also be repurposed as a search bar later on, or other things you may want to do. But for right now, I'm using that as an anchor. But let's say, for example, that we wanted a little color in our project. We didn't want everything to be BlackBerry black. So I'm going to make this red, like Alex showed the new red devices for elites yesterday, which is pretty cool. And Alec showed the red. And so I liked that. And that happens to be my favorite color. So I've just made one that's exactly the same size. And I'm going to write the word elites directory on that. So I'm just pulling out the typing tool. How many of you use Photoshop or other CS tools? Oh, good, everybody. Okay, so a lot of this is really familiar to you. What's cool about this app, though, is that it's kind of like the best of both worlds, Photoshop and Illustrator. You've got vector graphics and much quicker, easier editing capability. Have any of you already tried this product? Yes. Do you use it extensively, or?
Well, I started with FireWorks before anything else. So
ah. Are you using it for prototyping?
Not really.
Okay, good. All right, this will be something new to take back. Anybody else using FireWorks? No. So let me point out some of the differences to Photoshop along the way and why I like this better. I'm going to make this about 32 pixels. I'm guessing that's a little small. You can see at the bottom here, I've got this properties panel. I really don't want to tear it off, but maybe I can move it up a little bit. And this makes entering the properties much faster than Photoshop, because I can actually do this numerically too. I have X, Y position on the screen, and I have width and height that I can dial in manually if I want. I'm going to bump this up to 34. 36. Actually, I don't even have to do it numerically. I can, this is an object, and I can use the Q key. There's a shortcut that's really useful. And just stretch this and let it worry about the type size. I just stretch it until I like the look of it. I don't worry exactly what the point size is. Now I'm going to put that in the center. and I'm going to highlight both of these pieces. I'd like this title to be aligned to the center. So there's lots of palettes here. Most all of them are available under the Windows menu, and I've pulled them off like you can tear off palettes in the Creative Suite, and I've docked them over here for convenience. So you have something really cool, which is align to relative to object, and that's fine, and I'm going to group that. But you also have align relative to the canvas, which you don't in Photoshop. So there we get it back in sync with the canvas. And I like that too. Just watch which one you have turned on there. Now, let's move this up to the top. And let's make a symbol out of this so that I can use this across other pages in this file and other projects if I want to. So all you have to do here is right-click to get the local menu and go to Symbol. I've not made this a symbol yet, so convert to symbol. And I'm going to call this red title bar. And I'm going to save it to the common library, which spans all documents. So there's a difference here. The document library is just for this file. The common library, you'll find your symbols in all your projects. So I'm going to do that now to show you how easy that is. And it's going to say red title bar, and I will save it to this same group, BB10 device. And now when I open that up, you can see that I've got that red title bar that I can pull out. My mouse has just decided not to cooperate spontaneously. I wonder if it's Bluetooth interference. There we go. I can replace the existing item or not. Doesn't matter. I'll just say OK to that. Now I've got two of them. Now, let's go down and address that toolbar. I don't know that I like this toolbar. Let's say you want to modify it and make it your own. This has come in here as a bitmap graphic, and this is one of the quirky features of FireWorks that I just love. You right-click on this, and you flatten the selection, and now that's no longer a vector object. That's a bitmap. And I can come over here under my bitmap tools. So you have bitmap there and vector down here. And I'm going to get the selection tool, and I'm going to zoom in here. And I'm going to take that background, a chunk of it like this, go back to the selection tool, and now holding down the Alt key so I get a copy, my cursor changes as well. I'm just going to drag the copy over and create a blank action bar so that I can put my own icons on it. And to get out of this, I'll hit Escape. Same with the search. I've actually created search. So what I'd like to do in order to start to build this up as my own action bar, and again, I do plan to make enough action bars so you can find something that's useful, but it's rare to find in a collection of assets the exact perfect thing for yourself. So what I've done here is I've put a guide down, and I'm going to write the type so I know the right type size and position before I get rid of that. So I'm going to say search, and that's looking a little large, and to not waste time, we'll just use that Q key to bring up the handles, and we'll resize that and let FireWorks worry about exactly what the point size is. I don't need to guess. I can just do this free form. And if I'm really exacting, I can put it over there, and I can really measure base height and ascender height and X height and get it exact. For the purposes today, I don't need to be such a perfectionist. I would take the time on a client project to do it right the first time because, as you can see, I think you're getting the idea that you can create objects and replicate them and speed up your mock-up process. And you don't want to be replicating something that you're not happy with. So I usually take a little bit more time up front, and then I gain speed on the back end. So I know my search is in line there, and I'm just going to put a little box here where my image is going to go, and I'm going to get rid of that search and show you how to put in some of the icons I've created and why using FireWorks and the Creative Suite, hit Option first, pull a copy, how using the Creative Suite will carry you far because the packages work very well together. Now I've got a problem here, and I'm going to show you a different way to fix that problem. I could go back and finesse that, but I'm going to show you a new feature, another feature that I really like. Earlier, I drew a bar like this, an action bar. And I looked up in the online style guide from BlackBerry, the blend. And I know this is 4F, 4F, 4F to 36, 36, 36. So I'm going to create that blend now in this new document, hitting the blend mode. And I'm going to go put those hexadecimal numbers in. And I think it's 36, 36, 36. And now I've got the right blend. It's not looking quite as dark as it should, so I can pick up actually colors from the one I've got pasted in here. The 3636 4F 4F one is for icons, so that's where I have that memorized from. So I'll just cheat and pick up the color from this other graphic, and there we have it. So I've cheated, I've picked up the right gradient, and I want to save that gradient so I can use it again if I need to. So I'm going to open up the Styles palette for the current document. I'm going to tear it off actually so you can see it and I can make it smaller. That may not have been smart, because I'm getting lost in the smallness of this monitor. Let me try this. There we go. Okay. Under here, when you have an object selected, just click the New Style button and then you can pick up the fills, the effects, and so on. Now, anytime I draw a new action bar and I want to start from scratch, I can draw it out like this. Should probably also figure out the dimensions and make sure that I'm dialing them in. I can click on this object and see that its height is 141. That must have been a little bit of a misstep in copy and paste. Let's call it 140 by 768. And I can make this one exactly the same thing. 140 by 768. And I can make sure it's aligned at the 0 position, X. There we go. That's exactly the right color and size for an action bar. So you know what? Let's just get rid of this one altogether and not worry about it. And this is actually what I do. Now we've got that in the right position. Actually, you'd have to do a little math here. What is 140 and 140? 280. That's good, because my page is 1280 tall. No? So I know it's right at the bottom. Now I'm going to lock it there. I'm going to right-click and lock that in place. Now I'm going to start to bring in icons and build up this toolbar. So in order to do that, let's hop over to the icons that I've already downloaded from my own website, myersdesign.com. There's a new blog post up there, and these are the icons I showed yesterday in 399, the icon design session. And what I'd like to do is just have a button there where I can add a new contact or search through the contacts and find the one I want. Let's do search first. So I see the search button, and because these products are all from Adobe and work really well together, I'm just going to highlight it and copy it over and bring it right over into FireWorks. Now there's a problem with that, and that is it hasn't gone through the treatment yet. We bring them over to Photoshop. So I'm going to use another method that I just realized I should have done. Pardon me here. We're going to go to the exported PNG files that have their treatment, if I can open that up. Not the light theme, the dark theme. And we're going to look for the magnifying glass, and we're just going to open that up and copy it. And we're working here, are we not? Nope, we're working over here. Maybe I should label my file and save it, because I know this is going to be the best one. I'm going to zoom in here and size this up a little, and again, if I take a bit more time, I can get this to be exactly the right size. In fact, I know the dimensions of icons are 81 by 81, but the hot area is 57 by 57, so we'll make it that. And now I'll write search under it again. And that can be our search button, if that's what we want. Now I want to jump a little bit like a cookery program back to the one that I have on wheels to show you a couple other important things. As I mentioned before, you can create multiple pages. And I think before I show you hot linking, I'm going to do the multiple pages here. So we're going to come back to the one that we're currently working on. I'm going to save it as JAM396, so I know the difference. Out to my desktop. You should do this in FireWorks anyway and do it periodically. This has become much more stable than it has been in the past, but FireWorks does occasionally crash, depending on how much RAM you have and how many applications you have open. So really get in the habit of saving periodically when you're happy with a bunch of work. It has also gotten very good at recovering files that it crashes on, but still. Now, what I wanted to show you next was how to create multiple pages. So I'm going to get rid of the Q10 for now. I made that point already, that we can have multiple size documents within the same file, or multiple size pages within the same document. Now, we said we wanted 4 sections, and so I'm just going to make 4 more pages. I'm going to make a page. It's probably one of the first things you'll want to do is establish your pages. So I said we wanted elites, we wanted me, or my account. It doesn't matter what order you do these in either. It's the me page, basically, where you get to look at your information and update your information. And it's the Facebook page, so that we bring that in and it's integrated with our app. And it's the events calendar, so that we have this all under one app. Now I'm going to show you something else that's really cool in FireWorks. We've started our action bar. There are other objects lying around here, but I'm not going to worry about the neatness of this file. I'm going to name this layer group action bar. And if I were working away here, I would make sure and lock that so that I don't move that out of position. Another thing that I can do here is I can right-click and I can share this layer to all the pages, so they all have this action bar. And now when I go to my account, it's there. And when I go to Facebook and the events page. And just to prove that to you, because it may look like, you know, these pages all look alike, how can you tell this is working? I usually, when I'm doing early mock-ups, just put a little bit of text on the page so we can see it. And we'll make that bigger, as I said before. And we can align it nicely to the page. Here's another little tip. FireWorks copies and pastes exactly where it came from. It doesn't offset at all. So I can take my big title now and I can copy it. And I can go back to my pages. You know what is happening here? Because it's, maybe I shouldn't tell you, maybe I should ask you and see if you're following along. I changed pages, but I didn't change titles. Who knows what's happening here? There's a little bit of a shared layer. Bingo, exactly. So I'll create a new layer here, and I'll call this content. This is where I'm going to put the content for each page. And I'll move my title into the content layer. That's right. And now it's separate, and I can call this my account. I'm just hitting V to get out of this. Either grab the cursor over there or V for the selection tool. I'm going to copy that to Facebook page and just paste it right down there. And again, it's come in under there. It needs a layer group, so we have to establish a group and then paste it in there. Another way to do this really a little bit more efficiently is to take your original page like this. Let me show you, since I've got the page set up the way I want it. Got my account, and we've got this layer, which I want to move above the shared one. And I'll put the text into it, and I'll get rid of that. All right, now, perhaps the fastest way to do this is to duplicate that page. So I'll do 1 and 2, and then change them. It doesn't matter. It's however you prefer to work. Now, it's going to matter in a minute, and that's why I'm labeling my pages. The names that you give your pages will be the links.htm. Let me start from the beginning. One of the coolest features about this package is that you can export an HTML package. And that means that I can finish working on these pages. And we're going to create hot links before we do this so that they work. We're going to export the pages as HTML files. They're basically image maps. And they have a great big optimized graphic behind them, PNG or GIF, whatever FireWorks thinks it needs. And we have hotspots then. And we can click on those in either a browser window within Ripple and show our clients or our work group, or we can point the browser on our device to the page if we FTP it up to the web. And we can have everybody looking at the pages we create on their device and tapping through the pages. And this is actually very powerful in terms of conducting usability studies, real informal ones where you get early feedback from potential users and you ask them, how do you review the events you have coming up? How would you add a contact? How would you edit your own details? And see if they understand your iconography, your flow, etc. So that's what we're going to do next. Let's add a few hotspots, though, first. So I've named these all lowercase with that in mind, that it's going to be events.htm, Facebook or fb.htm, me.htm, elites.htm. That's what will come up later on. For now, though, we need buttons or accessibility to all of this. And to push us ahead a little bit, I've already got a project on wheels, so why don't we apply the links to this one right here? To familiarize yourselves with this a bit, let me just show you what's here. Got a lot of palettes here. This is fun on a nice big monitor. At the moment, not so much. Okay, that's a little better. And I can maybe hide the rulers. Okay, we can see most of the page, if not all at the minute. We'll see all in just a moment. I could actually zoom out too, couldn't I? There we go. Alrighty. Now under the layers, you're going to notice in every project you do a web layer. And what I want to do is get rid of mine at the moment so it doesn't interfere. And we're going to come over here where it says web, and we're going to go ahead and click on the one with a link, and this creates your rectangular hotspots. And so what I do is I come over here and I draw a fairly generous one. Doesn't matter, but you've got to make a decent sized tap target. Don't make it just over the little tiny icon or the word. In fact, the guidelines suggest that you don't make tap targets any smaller than 100 by 100 pixels. So we'll just leave it there right now. It's not an exact science. And you can see this link box if I close this group and this one as well. There's a link over here. So what is it linked to? Well, that's about me, so we'll link that to the page me.htm. And we'll go repeat the process a couple more times. We'll hook that up to the Elites page. We'll hook that up to the Facebook page. And we'll hook this one up to the Events page. And I didn't click the events, right? Right. So let me tap on them and make sure they're linked to something. Facebook, Elites, me. That's all looking pretty good. Now let's go and look at the pages and make sure we've got that on every page. We do not. So I'm going to go back over here and see if I can share this to all the pages. And the funny thing about the web layer is it's not letting me do that. I looked at this again yesterday and I don't understand why, but there's an easy workaround. You know what we're going to do? We've got them all highlighted. I'm just going to copy them because FireWorks, as I said, pastes exactly in the same spot on every page. And I could also have set up a single page, as I showed you initially, and then just gone in here and pasted. We've got to do it on the web layer though, and we've got to turn that on. So there we are. And we'll come down to events and do the same thing. Is this our events page? Yes. And what would help us know that is if we wrote something on it in the content area. So if you highlight the layer first, then the type will go in there. It creates automatically a new layer for you every time you put an object or type on the page. And this is the events page. And that's kind of handy. In Photoshop, you have to be more cognizant of the layers, and you have to work hard at keeping them organized. Not in FireWorks. It makes a new layer for you every time. And you just have to mind that you have a few basic folders set up, and you're ready to go. And we're using advanced features here, so since you have a lot of experience, I'm already going kind of quickly. And we've got the hotspots pasted in there. So it looks like we're set. Let's just do a quick review of our pages. This isn't events, though. This is me. This is the me page. Is that sharing? Okay, content is sharing across. You see the little icon way down here? I want to break that because it's messing me up. And I should be able to break that. I wonder if they've renamed it single layer. I think they have renamed that feature. Content. Delete. I don't want to delete. What I want to do is break the connection. What I can also do is click on the object here and break the connection that way. Or simply put it in a different layer. It's in there in a right click, but I think this has changed a little bit since CS5. Oh, that's right. There's sublayers. That's right. You're right. Thank you. Well spotted. I need to have a little more coffee. There we go. Now I don't see the symbol. I'm confident it's not being shared. It's not a sublayer. You are right. Right. So now what I want to do is copy that and not spend too much time on this. Again, it fell down below. I saw that. There we are. Facebook, we can tell the difference. Elites, we can tell the difference. Okay. Moving on to the big feature that is really helpful for rapid prototyping, and the one I really wanted to tell you about, is right here. We've got our 4 basic pages, and what we want to do is export. And we're going to export both the HTML and the images on the page, and you want to watch that it does it for all the pages. I think the default is just for the current page, so if you only see one, that's what went wrong. And I would like to put the images in a subfolder. And I don't need to check any other options. Now, I've done this before, as you can see. I want to do a fresh one. So I'm going to call this Proto Wednesday. Not a great file naming scheme, I know. Most of you will never hire me because you can see I'm a mess. But we need to put this all in a new folder, and that was what was supposed to be JAM396. Proto 1. I didn't want to change the name of this, which is probably going to export as elites, or you could call your first page index.htm. Now let's go ahead and export. Now I'm going to go look at what I got. We're going to look at it in the browser, but let's see what it exported first. There are our images, our HTML pages, and our images are in a folder separately. They're also named the same as the pages, but with the image extensions on the end. So it has indeed taken the names. It didn't pay attention to index.htm. That meant nothing. It has used the page names.htm as I expected. So what I'm going to be looking for then in RPL is that directory. So I'm going to open up our work now on my desktop. Okay, we're over here, and we'll open up that page. Now, this is not working inside RPL, so let's enable RPL. Is anybody using RPL? Good job. Okay. That's available on GitHub and from the blackberry.com/webworks page. So you can get this very easily, and then you get the Chrome, and it makes kind of a nice presentation to your client. And it's a plug-in for Chrome. It's a WebKit extension. And I'm hitting the Command minus key, Command plus to zoom in, Command minus to zoom out and fit it all on the screen, and Command 0 to get back to 100%. And now let's test and see if this works. Click on Elites. We're there. Click on Me. Click on Facebook. Click on Events. Now, I think that is kind of cool. I tried it last evening. If you have a connection, I have posted to a bit of an unwieldy address. But if you want to pull out your device and point your device to this URL, you can test this on your own Dev Alpha. If you get it working, I might even plug you in up here, and we can show the group. I didn't have a connection last time, and I don't want to take away from your time here fiddling around with the internet connection. I don't think mine is working at the moment. And I don't need it. I can proceed here by showing you a couple more tricks now. We have a little bit more work to do. This is not the end. You can see a gap, which I don't like. It is not perfectly flush with the edge of the page. And that's because I need to edit. There's a little bit of margin and padding built in by default. I wish there weren't, but that's the case in FireWorks. So that's a feature request. Could we please improve this, Adobe? What I'm going to do is I'm going to open these pages in my favorite editor, which is Coda. I'm going to fix that right now. I'm going to get rid of the title here within the header. We don't need that. I'm going to do a little quick HTML here. Text.css. And I'm just going to do what? I'm sure you guys know this. On the body tag, I'm going to set the margin and padding to 0. And I can copy this little snippet into all my pages. In fact, if you have an app where you collect snippets, I have one that I really love called Snippets. And I can just make a new snippet and paste this in there. And I can copy and paste it between my projects. So that's another little utility that you get for free this morning. So that should do it. To make sure that that's correct, let me do a quick preview. Yes, that's flush with the edge, so that's good. So I'm going to copy that little block. And I'm just going to quickly open those other files and paste it in, right where the title is. You can also do automated copy and paste. I could find and replace all of the titles and just replace them with this little block of code. But this is just as quick at the moment. Elites, Events, Facebook, and Me. It's a developer conference. We have to do a little tiny bit of code. Now, my pages have been corrected. They've been saved. Let's go back to my RPL. We'll refresh. And now it's flush, and it looks nice, and it's ready for presentation. Now I can FTP this group up to the web. And this is my way of getting ready for a client meeting. I can go in and I can say, this is what we've been working on since we last spoke. We took your suggestions on board. We had some new ideas. And here's how they work. Now, there are limits to this. This is great for ideation. it's great also, thank you, for changing your mind, because when you're prototyping, the trouble with sitting down to the code right away and messing around and figuring out what's possible, even in WebWorks, which is really fast, is that you get committed to it. You worked hard to make it fit and make it right, and you're not willing to throw it away or start over. And it may not be the right experience. So early in the game, when you're doing the mock-ups, you really want to be creating things fast and furiously that you're not so attached to, and that you can pivot around certain good ideas and be willing to change your mind. So I hope that these are a couple of tricks that help you do that and get something sort of realistic, but not so polished and finalized that your client feels they need to respond to you in kind. So I read a good tweet from somebody in a new book. There's a new book out called The Mobile Book, I believe, on smashing.com, if you follow that. It's brilliant. Just came out at the beginning of the year, just got it. It's by a collection of colleagues and authors. And they were saying about prototyping in today's world with all these different footprints and fragmentation and devices. Really, you need to go in with an open mind as a development and design team together and see how this is going to work out in landscape and portrait view and on tablet and on device. And mastermind very crudely with chunks of colored blocks, if you will, how this is going to flow when it's in a skinnier view versus a wider view, how it's going to morph and how it's going to transform, and how people still find their way through the experience. And this is excellent for that, for experimenting with that on a device that people are familiar with. One of the things from my experience that I've discovered in usability testing is, if you give somebody a foreign device, you spend more time getting them comfortable with that new device in their hand than you do actually getting good feedback about your design. So it's really important to give them a prototype they can operate on a device where they know the gestures, they know the tap targets, they know the type size, and they feel comfortable with it. And then all of that goes away. And they're not sitting, remember, at a computer. So it's not a matter of picking up your mouse and sitting at your keyboard and being able to do things. The user experiences and where you look for, where you expect action bars to be, is very different between the different platforms. So that's why I like being able to get a prototype on a device we all have in common, which is a huge challenge these days. I want to show you a couple more features. I don't know if you have any questions at this point. This is kind of one of the most important things I wanted to share with you today. No? Okay, let's see what else is on my list. All right. Because this is a developer conference, I've got to show you something really cool about the code. We've covered symbols, we've covered styles, we've got shared layers working, document and common library. Okay, different page sizes, HTML package, we're doing quite well. I now want to show you sort of what belongs to the end portion of a project. This is the early portion of a project where you're doing the mock-ups, and then design go and refine things and build great assets for you. You go off and start doing the plumbing and working on the code for the application. We come together at the end and we put together the final deliverable application for the store. So what I want to show you now are 3 quick features that all have to do with final production. So one of the features on my list, I am going to go over to another file, and well, heck, we can stick with this one. Let's go over here, and let's say that, let's see, do I have something I want to use here? Let's say that one of these images is necessary in your final production. Actually, this isn't the best file for this. Let me show you another one that I prepared for the evangelists on another session today. The Flintstones. And now you know that we can prepare for the Q10 and the Z10. And this was great fun. What we've got here is a web layer that's sort of blocking your view, and I've got individual graphics that I brought in here, and I want to break this apart at the moment and ungroup it to show you a couple more tricks here that are really cool in FireWorks. So I found the Flintstones on the web, and they had white backgrounds. And I wonder if I can bring in, if I have the raw material, to show you how quickly this works. There's Fred. Let's look at the graphics and see what we've got. Yeah, alrighty. I'll go get Fred. This is so fast. You pick up the magic wand tool and you select the white bits and you just delete them out of here. And you can't see they're gone because Fred isn't actually sitting in my project area. So let me copy paste him quickly into the other file. And we'll just paste him in here. Ah, you can see it already took it out. Let's open that up again. We'll open up the raw Flintstones. Let's say that this is what's so crazy about this application. You can copy and paste from the web. You can go ahead and pick up the selection tool here. You can actually physically cut that out of there. It's both bitmap and vector. You can paste this back into your project like this. You can grab the magic wand tool and get rid of the white bits like this. You can position Fred up so that he's a little smaller here. Hit the Q key, remember, and resize. There's lots of good shortcuts, tutorials for you to peruse on adobe.com. I'm just showing you how I made the buttons. I'm going to cut Fred out. I'm going to highlight my circle there, my graphic. Right-click and paste inside, which you find under the Edit menu, and that's how I made these buttons. And once you've got the buttons, then you can add the hotspots. Now the hotspots here I'm referring to are for slicing. So we're going to come over here right next to that web link tool and create a slice. And this is now about preparing final assets for the developers, or this is what I do in order to get ready for you and what you can do if you're a one-man shop and you want to prepare your own projects. Now I've got to tear this off and open it up and get rid of what I've already got because we can't see with all the stuff I've got on here. What I want to do with that image ready is I want to create my hotspot, slice, right over the image. That's one way to do it. Sorry, what I really wanted to do here was right-click on it and insert hotspot. But I have to be able to highlight that. And again, I'm not on the right thing. So what I want to do is right-click on an object and insert a rectangular slice. Okay? Everybody got that, the difference? This is a slice, the other was a link. Then again, once again, I want to right-click on the slice and export the selected slice. And I'm going to call this button Fred. And I'll put that out on my desktop or in a folder, and I'll pass that to a developer group as the assets. And so you can go around then, once you've got your layout, to all your individual assets and export them one at a time right from the layout. Okay? So that is handy, exporting assets in that way. Another thing that's really handy here with the guides, there's just two more things I'll show you, and then we'll have about 5 minutes for questions. When I use the rulers on a layout, let's say Q10, let's say that you need to know how long that rope is. Well, you know, one thing you can do with the rope is just highlight it, and in the properties box below, it'll tell you how big it is. So that's pretty easy. If I can tear that off and show that to you. Oh, come on. Show me all of it, please. I'm falling apart in my last couple minutes here. All right, there we go. Now, you highlight the rope, which doesn't want to come up for me at the moment. Maybe because I'm clicking through that. What layer is the rope on? Scenery, okay, it might be locked. There's the rope, it's locked down. Okay. It is a different layer, and there's the rope, and you found it, and this is the reason that I need to show you this other tip. If you can select it, you'll get the readout right here in the box as yes. If you can't select it, though, if you just want to measure something on screen, or you're setting up a grid for yourself, what I wanted to show you that's seldom discovered is that you have two guides between 2 points, any 2 points you choose. And when you put your cursor between the guides and hold down the Shift key, it gives you the dimensions. So that can be handy if you're planning the space for a game. And it's between wherever you set the guides. So if I put a guide here and I have a guide here, then holding down Shift is giving me the width and the height in that area. Okay? That's a really easy one. And now the top tip, the one that's kind of irresistible if you're doing a lot of this stuff, and I hope you are making apps. I'm going to take the rounded rectangle tool and let's pretend we're making a dialogue for BB10. And you can just adjust the corners like that. And I can look to make this look more like a BB10 dialogue. I don't have styles in this document, but that's all right. We won't worry about it. What I'd like to do is take a copy, paste it in place. I'd like to hold down the Option or Alt key and make the bottoms square. The Q key and shrink this up so I have a title area, which I'll make a different color for speed. I'm not going to be fussy about what color this is. I'm going to put this there, and I'm going to write some white text on it. That didn't turn out to be white. Where'd my properties go? Maybe I can just grab white text like this. There we go. This is a dialogue or an alert or something that you may need to tell the user. And it may have a couple of buttons on it. Cancel and the primary action, whatever that is. Now, new in CS6, we have the CSS Properties panel. And that will tell you what CSS, it will give you the CSS for your project. So you don't have to think about it. So right now it's giving me just that box because that's what's highlighted. But if I go in this whole group, I should be able to take all the CSS, copy all, and paste it into a project. Let's try that again. WebKit. Let's make a group out of this and see if that gives us more styles. Not at the moment, but this is pretty darn good because I'm not having to guess about colors or styles. Let's say selected and paste. Okay, we only got the width of the selected item. I would like everything, please. All right, it looks like it's just going to give me this right here. I need to play with this a little bit more, but I've had large dialog boxes that I've made, and it's given me everything. A whole long list, and it saved me quite a bit of time in terms of getting this into WebWorks and part of my real live application. So I think I'm going to stop there. Do you have questions? Yes. I'm sorry, could you speak up just a little bit?
Do you know about those plugins
Plug-in support for BlackBerry?
FireWorks.
Yes. So that seems like a good idea. There are quite a few extensions. That's the first question is, are there plugins for FireWorks? Yes, there's a whole extensions community. Do any exist for Cascades? The answer is I don't know, but it's a brilliant idea. So I understand the idea. You would like to export from Cascades, or you'd like to start working with FireWorks and then prepare assets that will import into Cascades. Yes. Right. Not the PNG, just the QML? All right. The QML is not possible. The first part, what you're talking about, having all of the Cascades UI in FireWorks, is what I am building. And I'm aiming to deliver by the end of February. So please watch. My Twitter is Liz Myers, just like my name, LIZMYERS. I'll tweet it, I'll blog it. We'll make them available from here. Fingers crossed, perhaps we can even approach Adobe and they will ship with FireWorks, because the truth is when you open this up and you look at your common library, this is where I got the idea, to be honest. You'll find in the common library all the assets for Windows, for iOS and Android, and the BlackBerry ones were missing, and that's why I wanted to create them. I was already using this process to mock up my own apps, and I continue to do so. I just wanted to make it easier for you to do that as well. Any other questions? Yes? Use a template. Use master pages, right. So, yes. Well, you can work that way. I don't know if you came in a little bit later, but what I was showing people was in this document, for example, what I would do is set up a page and have it the way you like it, as we discussed before. Put your navigation in, your title, your layout, your content area, and then duplicate that page and just swap out the content or swap out the bits that are different.
So, because when I make the navigation bar,
Yes.
I make the master page.
Yep.
Then can I share in all pages?
Yes, you can.
I don't need to copy paste the whole page.
Yeah, and there might even, yeah, you can set this page, very good. You can set this page as the master page and you will get the functionality that you just described. Very good. Thank you for adding yet another tip and trick in here. This is a big package. You build up speed. You become familiar and you work out how to do these things. Additionally, and the last thing I'll say, I think our time is just about up, but I will also let you know that I'm going to produce a series of short tutorials, less than 5 minutes, that will address these things, and we'll break a whole project like we did today down into the individual features or groups of features so that you can have a look at this again. So watch this space. The blog is myersdesign.com. The images are at myersdesign.com. The elites is all set up at myersdesign.com. The images are over here. There's the free set of PNGs. And the master files are under this menu as well. And I'll have another link shortly that says tutorials. And that's where we'll put the FireWorks tutorials. Okay? Well, if there are no further questions, thank you very much and happy prototyping.